Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Talmix broadcast. As you know, we run these broadcasts every month, and this month is no different. And today we are talking about a very exciting topic that I know is close to your heart, a lot of our consultants' hearts. But before I tell you more about what we're talking about, my name is Katie Roberts. You would have known me already, and I'm joined by Luiza, who I'll introduce to you in a few minutes as well. And as you know, these broadcasts are being recorded, so they're always available on our YouTube channel as well if you want to re-record it, rewatch it, or if you want to share the link to someone else that you think might benefit from it. So remember to make a note of it and come back and check, as today's broadcast is going to be full of some great advice and some great tips to help you perfect your proposal even more. So Luiza, I'm going to just introduce you for a few seconds, but I'd like to give you a little bit of a time to tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know that you're in the delivery team. Tell us a little bit more about your role and how you help consultants at Talmix, really.
Great. Hi, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm Luiza. I'm part of the customer success team, which means that I'm responsible for providing consultants and clients with the best experience within Talmix. I've been working with projects in the UK, APAC, and Middle East for almost a year now, mostly management consulting, retail, consumer, and leisure. At the customer success team, we support the client on finding the best consultant, and we also help you, the consultant, to tack on the best projects you can find with us for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Luiza. I know you're busy, so it's great to have you here. So for everyone watching, if you're joining us early in the morning or late in the evening, thank you very much for your time. We plan to do this in half an hour, not to keep you much longer. We are talking about how to write a winning proposal. So I know that a lot of you often ask for tips and advice and ideas on how to perfect your proposal writing even more. So Luiza's got some great advice that she's going to be sharing with us today. Lots of information, so if you do miss anything, as I said, you can always rewatch it. So Luiza, let's jump straight in. Before we get into the actual proposal writing, talk to me a little bit more about the types of things that consultants should ideally look for in a brief that would essentially form the fundamentals of the proposal that they plan to write.
Great. So our consultants are more than often awesome at writing proposals, but where they do need some support, I would remind them of the following tips. After fully reading the brief, you should be focusing on, number one, the requirements. Make sure you double check all of them. Check if they need a specific language or a specific experience as a must-have skill. Also, check whether the project will be on-site or can be done remotely. Say the client is looking for someone in Paris and I live in London. Even though I can be willing to pay for my relocation to perform the project, if the client can easily find someone already in Paris, why would they go through the effort of even considering my profile? Of course, every rule has an exception, and if the project is completely unique, this may be the case. So judge it wisely before dedicating some time to apply, because make no mistake, you will need time to apply. If you have all the experience the client is looking for, if you've done similar projects in the past, if you feel strongly competitive for that project, and of course your CV is also showing that, then go for it. That also takes me to the number 2 point. Your CV must show exactly what you're saying. So make sure you tailor it in accordance to the specific experience you're emphasizing on the proposal. Otherwise, it won't make a lot of sense from the client perspective to see a very strong proposal that where you mention a lot of projects regarding the project that the client is asking you to perform, but your CV doesn't say anything about those projects.
So I suppose, Luiza, the two things that really stick out there to me is the tailoring of your CV, which I think a lot of people overlook because they just send their CV out. They think it has enough information and it has everything, so why tailor it? So that's very interesting to hear. And the second thing is what you are also saying is to look out for little hints, I suppose, on that would kind of enable the consultant to make a decision as to whether they should propose or not, because obviously taking time to propose takes some time. So things like looking at whether the client wants someone who's location based or whether they don't mind. So that would be fair to say, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah, perfect. So now we think about those briefs that may not always hold all the information that consultants need to be able to successfully write a proposal. There might be briefs that are a little bit more or a little bit less detailed, shall I say. How do consultants, or how should consultants deal with something like that? What do you usually advise?
Excellent question, Katie. And unfortunately, this is much more usual than we would want it to be. Let me go back just a little bit before I answer this one. It's important to say that we do our best to gather as much information as possible to help the client write in the brief. Sometimes, though, it will either be a matter of confidentiality and they'll only share the details with the selected consultants, or they'll be counting on the consultant's expertise to build up the scope better. So bear with us and do your best on the proposal, because you will get this information before signing off any agreement. Okay, back to the question. My best advice is focus on the requirements again. That one is a given. Always make sure you double check all of the requirements. And remember similar projects you've done before. Even though you don't know the specific deliverables for this one, if you've done something related in the past, you can easily use the same line of thinking and write a proposal based on that former approach that you know has been successful already. The client is aware that you need more information in order to write a full consulting proposal, so their expectations are also tailored to receiving a short proposal with your first ideas and highlights of your experience only.
Perfect. So if we talk a little bit about getting into the detail of a brief, you know, and we know that especially when it comes to setting rates for a project, I think that's still an area where consultants sometimes struggle, especially the newer consultants when they're determining the value for the services that they provide. So you may recall that we recently did a broadcast where we discussed exactly that topic, determining or helping consultants determine what their consulting rates are. So what do you do if a project brief budget may not be entirely accurate according to what you think the customer needs? How do you, Luiza, advise consultants how to handle budget fluctuations or different proposing at different rates than what the budget says or what the client says?
I advise them to be very pragmatic about it. If you can do the project after ticking the boxes we've mentioned before, quick reminder: 1, meet the requirements; 2, your CV shows that clearly, and your rate is around 35–50% tops higher than the estimated, I suggest you apply and make sure you write a stellar proposal. To help you nail it, we have a great how-to guide about writing proposals that you can find on our resources page. So you go to our website, on the header you can find it under resources. In other cases, when you see a project and you believe that what the client is asking for will cost them much more than the rate they mentioned, I advise you to weigh it carefully. If you are a great match for that project, but your day rate is, say, 4 times what they're suggesting, it is very unlikely that they will have this sort of flexibility. If the description says that the budget is flexible, though, you then have 2 options. You can either give us a call and ask for the customer success manager on that project. Make sure you have the complete name of the project when you're doing so. Or you can just use the support button to ask, again, the customer success manager before spending some time on this proposal. Either way, we may be able to help you with further information, so make sure you get in touch with us.
I suppose you touch on a very good point there. You know, you, especially within the delivery team, but as Talmix, you walk that journey with the client. You know the client, you understand what their challenges are. You also understand and have insight on where they're going as an organization and what their future projects may look like, etc. So, you know, those are the kind of things that may not be visible in a brief, but certainly as a team, you hold some insight that could help. So that's an interesting point that you mentioned. And the second thing that I wanted to just clarify, so are you saying that if a consultant is able to motivate an increase in rate compared to what the budget says, up to 50% would be acceptable, obviously, as long as they can motivate or justify the increase?
Yes, exactly. We usually advise up to 50%, because the client will have a budget, will have a set budget for that project. So if you're going to go too high, you probably don't. It probably doesn't matter how good you are at that, because they will simply not have the budget to do so. However, if you do have a great experience, you are a great match for that project, and you can justify increasing around 50%, chances are very high that you can get it.
Perfect. Cool. Excellent. So let's talk about another topic. And I know we're going to start getting into the detail of what proposals look like. And in a few minutes, I'll be showing my screen as well to demonstrate a few examples. But let's talk about the area of transferable skills, which is another very commonly asked question by a lot of our consultants. Many that certainly I speak to, and I'm sure you speak to as well, have been able to serve a number of customer needs. You know, they have the experience, they have the skills to be able to deliver certain services. But sometimes they may not have experience in a specific industry, but the transferable skill enables them to be able to serve, you know, any industry. So when it comes to projects and transferable skills, there are sometimes, certainly in project briefs, there are times when a customer is very specific about the skills that they require. So how important is it for the consultant to really read the small print to ensure that they really are a good match for that project?
It's very, very important, Katie. Appreciate we have transferable skills, and that 100% of the time our CVs won't show everything we're capable of doing. However, realistically speaking, when a client is looking for an expert, it is less likely that they'll be super flexible with mandatory requirements. So unless you take 2 out of the 3 boxes of the must-have requirements and can make a fantastic point why they should be engaging with you when you don't meet the last one of them, chances are that your proposal won't be the strongest in order to be attractive for the client at first glance. So pay attention to the requirements. A lot of them can be flexible indeed. And in those cases, your proposal strength will be much higher, and therefore the likelihood of you winning it will increase as well.
Perfect. So at Talmix, I'm sure you've seen many proposals which have the opportunity to be so much more than what they are, so much better developed, so much more detailed. But in many cases, the consultants have gone as far as to merely say things like, to be determined, or look at my CV, or revert to their profile for more information, etc. What is your advice when it comes to proposal corner cutting, so to speak, when consultants use these types of things, and not putting the detail that the client would like to see in the actual proposal? What kind of impression does that create?
That you don't care enough. As simple as that. I would say never ever write a proposal with little to no details. If you can put our example up on the screen, please.
Sure, it should be there now. There you go.
Great. So as we can see on this one, the consultant just said, pitch deck, I did venture capital sourcing. So it's literally little to nothing. So things like that, and like, I've done it before, refer to my profile, see my CV, to be discussed, and similar, will only give the client the feeling that you couldn't even spend 15 minutes of your time reading the project description and writing a short but tailored proposal. So the idea is, and we can think of that as well. If we were clients, why should we be spending 15 minutes of our times going through the consultant's profile and CV if they couldn't be bothered to spend 15 minutes of their time actually trying to write a short but tailored proposal? It doesn't make sense. So just make sure that you put some effort and you put some real time on thinking about projects that you've done before, that you can relate to this one, and that you can write, again, a short but tailored proposal. They actually spend some time thinking of that.
Absolutely. I suppose it's what you say. If you don't have the time to put in the work, the client won't have the time, or take the time, or make the time to actually read what you are wanting to say. One chance to make a good impression. Right. So let's get into some of the detail. Let's talk proposals. What are some of the most common mistakes made in proposal writing that you've seen?
Basically ignoring requirements. Language fluency, location, visa sponsorship possibilities, travel and expenses coverage, specific experience, be it in industry or region. So what we have to bear in mind is that preferable skills mean that the client is more flexible. So if you're seeing a set of requirements that everything is preferable, they are more flexible indeed. Yet they will still need to see some connection between your proposal and that project. So it's very improbable that they'll go with someone who has never done anything similar before, or doesn't know the specific market, or hasn't worked with the specific region before. So we just need to make sure that they can see the connection.
That's a good point. So we're going to, I understand you're going to take me through some example of some winning proposals, which is great. And just for our viewers, for the benefit of our viewers, I'm going to be sharing my screen again, but we've got a lot of information on the screen. So we will make sure that we make these screenshots available as well, possibly further down in the blog, on our resources section, or, you know, if you want us to send you some more information, get in touch with us. But we'll put it on the screen so you get the idea, but Luiza will be talking through the detail and a little bit more for us. So Luiza, let's look at some winning proposals. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about the project itself, and then tell us specifically about what it was in the proposal that helped them stand out and win this project. And I'm just going to share my screen so that we can see what you're talking about. There you go. You should be able to see now.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie. So as we can see in the project overview here, this project description is very, very brief. We literally only have the basic details one will need. We can see that they shortly describe the company. So it's a PE fund that has invested in a business process outsourcing company and their needs. An interim CFO for 3 to 4 months with flexible location, either Singapore or the US. The requirements, though, are very, very specific. The consultant must have CFO experience, preferably in a BPO outsourcing business with operations in multiple geographic locations. Now let's take a look at the winning proposal and how this hired consultant wrote a fantastic approach with so little information. Firstly, as we can see on my suitability for this project, he meets the requirement of CFO experience plus the preferable requirement of the BPO experience. So he was straight to the point, saying that in the first sentence. Secondly, the approach and the deliverables are very tailored to similar projects he has done before. Note how specific he is, and he suggests to discuss it with the PE firm and the CEO to address the potential needs. They will be suggestions after all, because he knows he will discuss them in detail during the interviewing process. Okay, let's move to the next example of a winning proposal. Now I'm going to talk to you about a slightly different one. It's a bit more structured, that was written for this project. So the project description is also short on details, but with specific requirements. The company needed a diagnostic for business transformation. So a consultant with either a project manager experience or a transformation manager experience with experience in the Brazilian market, plus experience of leading business transformations in Latin America before. Very, very specific requirements, even though we don't know a lot about the project at this point. Next slide, please, Katie. Great. This hired consultant went further and beyond, and he even split his approach and deliverables into the 60 days the company had suggested as a duration. He was very, very specific and detailed, based on his former experience, basically. Under my suitability for this project, again, we can see that he met the requirements of PMO experience and several transformation projects in Brazil and in other countries in Latin America. So he was able to show both the mandatory requirements and the plus requirements that added a lot to the strength of his proposal. Not only he states that, but he emphasizes the results he was able to achieve in those projects, in the former projects he has done before. Also, he highlights his language skills. That is, again, a nice to have skill, is a plus skill, is listed as a nice to have in the project description. So another plus to his proposal and profile. So once the client sees that, he can see a very structured and detailed proposal, even though he didn't have a lot of details on the project description. Everything based in former projects he has done before. And under my suitability, he went there and he listed everything that he had that met the requirements, both preferable and mandatory, plus the skills that were nice to have. So that made a very, very, very good proposal, very strong proposal, and got him to win the project.
I mean, those are great examples, really, really good examples. I think what sticks out for me is that they were, again, it comes back to the fact that it was tailored to the brief, and also the relevance of the consultant who proposed for the project. One thing that we've spoken about before is this whole idea of consultants proposing for anything and everything and hoping that somewhere they're going to win the project. So they spend a lot of time on things that probably will never lead to business for them. And also just and so it weakens their strength of proposal writing because they don't take the time to tailor it. They don't take the time to make it specific to a specific project. Because they lose hope, essentially, because they never get the project. So, certainly I think also one of the take-homes is to make sure that the project you're applying for, you're proposing for, is absolutely relevant to you. And it's not just something that you hope will kind of land you the project. Would you kind of agree with that, or was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I completely agree with that. So instead of spending 2 to 5 minutes in each proposal, choose one that you think you're really good at, you could be really good at, and that you have proof and you have how to show it to the client, and then spend 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the project. You spend as much time as you need to make sure that the client understands that. So I would say keep 3 things in mind. First, double check the requirements always. That's going to show you how strong you are for that project and how strong your proposal could be for that project. 2, make sure your details, your CV details, the project as much as you've mentioned in the proposal. So if you're emphasizing 1 or 2 projects that you've done, but your CV is more generic, tailor it for those projects. Make sure you add all of the details that the client may need to be sure that you're the right consultant for that project.
Perfect.
And number 3.
Go ahead.
Number 3, if you have any queries or anything that you don't understand about the project description, remember that you can give us a call. Rather than spending some time on applying for projects you're not sure are the best for you, rest assured that there are customer success managers here that may be able to help and provide you with more insights about them. Remember that this will be the client's first contact with your profile, with your personal brand. And being an independent consultant, you know how important it is to make a great impression. So put the proper effort into it and make sure you're there to impress. Also, at our website, we have an amazing resources hub where you can find some extra help and how-to guides. Besides that, we have a blog with some interesting pieces within our field and other interesting contacts. So make sure you take the best advantage and don't miss out on it. Just go to our website at talmix.com, and on the header you will find it under the resources. So enjoy.
Perfect. Thanks, Luiza. Thank you for that. Yeah, and just on that note, for a lot of people watching this presentation, or this broadcast rather, we do put out a lot of great resources that are also tips and ideas shared by other consultants who have been there and done that. So, the case of the what we were just talking about, don't propose for everything, was also came out in a conversation I had with another consultant yesterday, where he was saying he spent so much time proposing on the wrong projects that it actually caused him to lose hope and lose heart. And when he readjusted his focus and proposed on the right projects for the right business, for the projects that he knew he had a strong case with, his journey as a consultant changed considerably, and it made a big difference to the rest of his career. So do make sure you keep an eye on our resources, because we do publish some really, really great things from fellow consultants who have been there, walked the journey to kind of help you, empower you as well. And even if you are looking to reinvent yourself as a consultant, and maybe you've done it for many years, there will always be something new to learn, something new to think about, or maybe just a reminder of something you've forgotten in the past. So as Luiza says, do keep an eye on our resources page. There's some fabulous stuff there. Luiza, thank you so much for your time. I'm aware that we are very much at our cutoff point. So thank you so much for being part of this today, and for sharing some awesome insight about how to really write the best proposal as a consultant. For all our viewers, just a reminder that these broadcasts run monthly. We've got a great one lined up for July, very relevant in today's economy, so it's absolutely relevant for consultants who are trying to manage their career journey and their independent career even better, and to think ahead. So make sure you keep an eye on our social media, on our email, your email inbox, because we'll send out notifications, and of course we'll be publishing that link to the broadcast for next month very soon as well on our resources page. But that'll happen in July, another 30 minutes, sorry. So do check back with us. But Luiza, thank you very much again. Have a good day. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed, and have a good day too.
Perfect. And there's nothing left for us to say, but have a wonderful afternoon further, and make sure you check back in, and we'll speak to you in July. Take care.